r/rules horror. Posted by u/loose_alternative 990. Woman in a wheat field. I recently bought a framed print from a thrift store. It was a temporary measure to hide a dark, thin crack in the sitting room wall behind the sofa, one that kept catching my attention whenever I would glance into the mirror above the fireplace. I had hoped to find something depicting a seaside or a mountain, but when I came across this print, propped up against the wall beneath a shelf of old tea sets, it felt exactly what I was looking for. It depicted a wheat field, mid-harvest, a blue sky streaked with darkening clouds, and at the back of the crop, behind a cluster of verdant trees, was a thin line of distant mountains. In the foreground, left of center, stood a woman, wearing clothes befitting of a lady in the late 19th century, a large brown skirt, a matching hat, a white blouse with puffed sleeves, and hands folded delicately in front of her. Her face was a featureless bead of dark pink that gave a sense of dreamy indefinability to the scene. Having grown up near farms, there was something nostalgic about it. It reminded me of endless summer days, chasing the shadows with friends to escape the wrath of the sun. I didn't notice until I went to hang it that a manila envelope had been taped to the back. Dry, yellowing tape that gave off a musty smell when peeled away from the backing board. I hung the picture on a nail I'd carefully hammered to the right of the crack and then gently opened the envelope. Inside were two pieces of folded paper that seemed to bear the fragility of age, resting there for what could have been a couple of years or a couple of decades. It read as follows. Page 1. Please read before hanging. This picture is called Woman in a Wheat Field. It is a print of painting created by Peruvian painter, Luis Astete y Concha, originally painted between 1897 and 1910. I do not know the date or place that this particular print was produced. One thing I can say in confidence is that this print is cursed. I say this in earnest and with experience. I cannot resign myself to pass it on to another without at least attempting to warn the beholder. The woman in the painting moves. I do not want to speculate why or what she is because the very thought inspires me with terror. Usually she will be seen in the center, but often she will stand on the trodden path to the right or be in amongst the wheat. However, on rare occasions, her behavior changes. Enclosed are 6 pieces of advice rules I have produced to ensure she causes the owner no harm. Please forgive me for this burden. I am afraid. Page 2. 1. Once the painting has been hung, it becomes part of that house. It is the responsibility or the person who hung it, not the person who purchased it. 2. The face has no features. If you see even the smallest hint of the contrary, carefully cover the painting with fabric, like a tea towel, and keep it there until they disappear. Check every 10 minutes. Features appearing can range from 2 slightly paler dots in the center of the face to highly detailed bloodshot eyes that stare out with scorn. Take no chances and cover. 3. Do not cover for any other reason besides this. 4. If she is not in the painting, then she is in your home. You may hear her. You may feel her presence. You may even see her featureless face in your periphery. Do not turn. Do not try to look at her. Do not try to speak to her. She will return to the painting eventually. If you try to look at her, she won't be there, but it will make linger longer. 5. If she ever appears with her back turned to you, leave the room and close the door behind you. Take anyone in the room out with you as well. Do not render until the clock strikes the next hour. When you return to the room, everything will seem normal, but any houseplants you own will have died and shriveled up. Any pets left behind will succumb to the same fate. 6. Do not try to damage or destroy the picture in any way. This will not remove her presence from your home. It will confine her to it. I think there is something else in the field. 7. Do not remove the picture from the wall unless you are endeavoring to return it. 8. Do not attempt to remove or return it while observing rules 2, 4, or 5. You now know as much as I do. I do not know who she is or why these things take place. If you no longer want this in your home, you should return it. 1964. I looked up at the picture. Reader, I am a skeptic. However, as I read this, I felt a sharp pang of something I'd never felt since I was about 10, when I turned into my bedroom late one night and mistook the eyes of my cat under my bed for those of the bogeyman. It felt at once completely ludicrous and yet absolutely genuine. 2 days later, when nothing at all had happened, I thought about the letter again with a smile, almost a sense of admiration that something could have made me feel so uneasy. I had the painting for another 2 days after that before returning it to the thrift store. I had fallen asleep watching television and woke to some reality show about gold miners in Australia. The only light was coming from the screen, and when my eyes flicked up to glance at the mirror, I saw it, an empty field. To say I panicked was an understatement. I barely have any recollection of the seconds between what I saw in that reflection and slamming my car door shut. I spent the rest of the night in my car. How I managed to fall asleep was a miracle, as I was sure, before my eyes closed, I saw a shadowing figure in my upstairs window and the barely perceptible twitch of the open curtain as it dissolved away. Or perhaps I dreamt that. I am not saying that the letter was true, but I did tape it back to the painting upon returning it. It might have been the effects of a tired imagination at the end of a busy week. However, I have come to learn that I am not so skeptical as to put that theory to the test. For my readers here, I wish to add an eighth rule. Please do not try and search for this image. If a print of a painting can do this, then perhaps a visual can too. Just remember the name and remember the rules, should a print like this ever come into your possession. Next story of this video. Posted by u/youngstar181. So, you want to visit Arkham? If you saw the title and immediately thought Batman, then congratulations, this isn't for you. If, on the other hand, you think of a small fictional town of Massachusetts, then I'd also advise you stop reading. Maybe it's better to just forget the child/spouse/sibling that disappeared under mysterious circumstances, only to turn up dead in a scene straight out of a horror movie. Believe me, the therapy is cheaper. If you want to go down this road, you're either insane, curious to a suicidal degree, or American, or perhaps a hellish combination of the three. In which case, I'm here to give you the tips you'll need to, if not survive, last maybe a bit longer in the town that God forgot. Part 1, Preparations. 1. Can you think of any possible excuse to get out of this? If you can, take it. Close this page, and never look at it again. 2. This is going to sound weird, but if you aren't white, you shouldn't go. Arkham is a town that is stuck in the 20s, and that very much extends to race relations. Arkham is a sundown town in all the worst ways, as can be expected of a town created by H.P. I wonder what his cat's name is. Lovecraft. 3. If you do want to go through with this, you'll want to start by securing a car. You're going to want to find an old-fashioned car, ideally from around the 1920s. Sorry if you thought you could roll up to Arkham in your fancy new car, that's not how this works. Ideally, you'd want one with a radio, but if you can't find one with such an addition, that's fine. 4. You've also got to pack, and while doing this, abide by the styles of the 1920s. Arkham is a peculiar town, and you want to make sure you fit in. You don't want to get noticed by the things that still call the town home. Be sure to check all the things in your packing that might make you stand out. Trust me, you don't want that. 5. Make sure you've got a clear schedule ahead of time. You'll want to give yourself a week at least, but the more time you have, the better. 6. Make sure you have your affairs in order. Your chances of getting out of here are slim, so make sure that, if worse comes to worse, things in the sane world don't go too wrong. 7. Practice speaking as if you were from the 20s, you want to make sure you can act the part. 8. Make peace with whatever god you worship, but whatever you do, don't ask for help. It won't help you, and it's more than likely that you'll piss off the more relevant gods. Part 2, Getting to Arkham. 1. Get to Massachusetts. This is the easy part, so while you do this, consider rethinking your life decisions, and trying as hard as you can to think of an excuse to turn around. Maybe just stay in Boston, make it a holiday, see the sights, fly home, then delete this page from your browser history and forget ever thinking of going to Arkham. 2. Check the weather forecast. For the ideal conditions, you need it to be rainy, with thunderstorms being A+. Make sure that the conditions are forecast to happen late at night. 3. On the evening where the weather conditions are most optimal, pack your things, get in the car, and head out of town. You'll want to be as far away from civilization as possible, but make sure you stay within state borders. 4. When you are at least 1 kilometer from the nearest town, pull over to the side of the road, turn off your headlights, and take a deep breath. This is your last chance to turn back. At this point, you can head back into town, and aside from some vivid nightmares, you won't have any other adverse effects. 5. Turn on the car's radio if it has one. You'll want to tune it to static, any frequency where there is nothing being broadcasted. If your car doesn't have a radio, just stare out into the darkness ahead of you. If all things are right, the darkness that surrounds you should seem darker than usual, and there should be no cars nearby. This is a sign that you've done things right so far. If you have a radio, then go to step 6, if not, then go to step 7. 6. If you have a radio, you will start to hear voices in the static, slowly growing in volume. You must ignore them. Do not turn the radio off, don't cover your ears, just don't listen to them. They will try to get you to listen closer, they will mimic the voices of your loved ones. They will promise you everything your heart desires. If they get desperate enough, they may threaten you, but ignore all of this. Do not pay attention to them. Eventually, they will fade, and when you are certain that you can no longer hear them, go to step 8. 7. If you do not have a radio, and stare out into the night, at some point, you will get the feeling of being watched. You must ignore this feeling. You may sense things out there in the pitch black, you may even glimpse them in the corner of your eye. They are there, but you must pay them no mind. They will try to trick you into looking at them, into breaking your focus, but your eyes must remain fixed ahead of you, no matter what they try. As in step 6, at some point, these feelings will fade, and at that point proceed to step 8. 8. Turn on the car's headlights. If they turn on, then you're in the clear. Start driving, and within about 10 minutes of driving, you should see signs alerting you that you have arrived in Arkham. Congratulations, you have successfully made the biggest mistake of your life. Step 3, Surviving Arkham. 1. Now that you've arrived, you need to get off the street. Find a hotel to stay at for the night. Don't worry, inflation hasn't hit yet, so it's quite cheap. Just don't go flaunting your cash. Like I said previously, you do not want to draw attention to yourself. 2. Most hotels have a map of Arkham. Familiarize yourself with all of the places you'll need to visit, as well as the street names. You'll be using taxis to get around Arkham. You should only use your own car as an absolute last resort. 3. Act like you're in the 20s. Don't use modern slang, don't do anything that would have been seen as uncouth in the time period. Blend in as much as you can, you don't want to give them an excuse to look for you. 4. Get whatever it is you want to do done as fast as possible. The longer you stay in Arkham, the more time you lose in the real world, and the more likely it is that you'll get caught. 5. Let your suspicions guide you. There is no such thing as paranoia in Arkham, only instinct. Is the bellboy giving you the side eye? Maybe you should check in at another hotel. Is the taxi driver a bit too eager for you to get in the cab? Try the next one. Is that book in the library whispering sweet nothings to you? Might be time to conclude the investigations for the day. 6. Make sure you're inside by sunset. You don't want to be out and about at night. Ensure the curtains are drawn, the door is locked, and ignore any tapping at either. 7. If you see anyone that you recognize in town, then do not acknowledge them, no matter how hard they try to get you to do so. It'll only end badly. Step 4, Escaping Arkham. 1. Once you have all you need, don't rush to leave. The town won't let you. All the roads will lead straight back to Arkham. You must not act like you're getting ready to leave. You need to trick the town into thinking that you are staying. 2. On the evening of your departure, ensure you are still booked in, and are within walking distance of your car. 3. Before the sun begins to set, leave your room, and head straight for your car. Do not bring anything out into your car, you may need to leave these things behind as a decoy. 4. To start with, just drive around town as the sun sets, turn on the radio if you have one, just make it seem as if you're just out for a drive. 5. The moment the sun dips fully below the horizon, head for the edge of town. If you're lucky, a road should appear. 6. Drive down that road, and keep following it until the lights of the town are out of sight. 7. Turn off the headlights, lean back in your seat, and close your eyes. If you have followed these steps correctly, you should now be on the same road you were on when you entered Arkham. Congratulations, you've escaped. You can return to Arkham however often you like, but you should go as rarely as possible. If you do go, then please help me. I'm writing this while barricaded in my hotel room. I broke rule 4, I forgot to not bring my phone. Such a simple thing, but it caused them to notice me. I can survive in the town for another couple weeks, but not much longer. They're catching on to me, and it won't be long until I'm caught, and at that point there's no saving me. If you make it to Arkham, please either save me, or depending on the condition I'm in, kill me. Well, I don't know what else to say other than safe travels, and good luck, you're going to need it.